why don't we have a look at Japanese yen is moving before we just look at the start? Let's have a look at Japanese yen, see what's been going on there. Okay, so Japanese yen, you've heard me talk about it over the last few sessions. It had been providing some really fabulous trends. All right, some absolutely fabulous trends. The opportunities to achieve because there was stamp one, stamp two, all right, basically just selling yen because it was bottom of the pile. But as Echo and the Bunnymen sang, nothing ever lasts forever, and nor does a trend. All right, so what you can see is that so there's a good example here that pound, you know, overall that trend of that even when sterling had been weakened, but you can see basically bang, we've broken the structure, we've dropped our way. Dollar, all right, we had dollar yen. This was a really nice 3 bar reversal of the 20, ran its way up to big round number, but then you can see Friday dropped. Okay. Swiss yen, all right, which, if you look at this, all right, let's just go into this because this is a great example. Swiss yen has been a great trend. All right, beautiful. We've talked about it for the last few weeks. That's what you want, but no trend ends, and I did the active trades piece on Monday, talking about these great trends, but sometimes it's transitioning. And this is now, of course, it's always easy in hindsight, isn't it? So you might say, well, Paul, this put in a really nice double top with a kind of a lower high there. If you look at the price action, and now we're working our way down. And if you look at the 20 is kind of turned, the 50 is still coming up. And I wonder whether and I was talking about this yesterday, whether we just basically coil up. All right. We coil up. Maybe the ISM numbers move it, or maybe we just coil up because it's August, all right, by the end of this week. So that's what I'd be looking at. That's the scenario I'd have in my particular mind. But remember, this is stage two. So what I'll be looking at is, when I'm looking at this, I'm looking at, right, okay, what's the high of this candle? All right, 186, 008. What's the high? This candle 186. So this is the high. All right, this is the ultimate high. So what do I do? Ultimate high. I'm looking for where's the VB? There's the VB. All right, which also just happens to be a fractal. Have we broken it? Well, yeah. So we have broken it. So actually, I'd be coming up here. What happened is when we look here, this was this, but this was great trades from like Thursday night to Friday morning. They're the only things you were in front of NFP. That was the challenge and stuff. But we've broken we'd reached our high, which in itself was a bearish key reversal. That was a short in itself. But this was the daily VB. You can see we broke it, we pushed it, and we pushed back up above it. And then woof, we've come back down to it. And in fact, if anything, that's a Victor. All right, that's a V2 Victor. All right, there you go. Back up to those kind of here we go. Back up to this kind of level here. All right, back up to that level in there. Boom. There we go. Thank you, the Bishop of Durham. And that's what's happened. So, and as I said, Swiss is top of the pile. Swiss is top of the pile and has been in a fantastic trend. And yet, even that over the last week or so, that's come off, hasn't it? Come off quite considerably. And it's pretty much similar. Euro again, we'd looked at was beautiful as well. But then, we put in that, that's a bearish key reversal, isn't it? We had moved here. This was the high. This is the high. All right. And so, of course, I'm looking for where's the VB? Okay. And we pull back in. So, here you are still bullish. You're still bullish. But the reason is most people wouldn't have taken positions because you were right into the Bank of Japan meeting. And that Bank of Japan there has basically pushed us up into it, FOMC, Bank of Japan, and then basically woof. It looked like you were going to get a bullish key reversal, got back up above the 20. There'd have been people thinking, this is a pullback to buy, but then actually woof, there was the Friday. All right, bang, there we go, drifting away there. And we just draw that out. We broke through that. And in fact, actually, once we make this high, this becomes your VB. So if you've been long, and you're just trailing underneath the swings and the VB, under the fractals, your long position is open. Remember, even if you didn't trade this key reversal, but you have been long, remember what I say is that, if there's a key reversal happening against you in a trend, it's a sign that the trend, if it's not over, it is coming towards its natural conclusion. And you can see this is a really good example of it. And it's a good example of transition. You've got a bearish key reversal, followed by a bullish engulfing candle key reversal. So, this is transition. It's not pretty, right? It's not pretty, but then you don't get it to be pretty. Once again, as I was saying, it basically, on the 4 hour chart, come down to bounced off the 200, hit that 50, printed the bearish key reversal. You know, if you weren't into Friday NFP, that would have been just a really nice Vulcan opportunity selling that, and you can see where we are. But there you go. Even that, this morning we've got a bullish key reversal there. Okay, that would have been your run over. All right, if you carried it over the weekend. So hopefully you get the gist. All right, that's basically those trends. I'd say they're over. Well, it looks like they're over. Once again, Aussie yen, nice double top there. Interesting to look at the way the sort of the 200 and the 50 were there, right? And there's no major Aussie news, no major Japanese news. So, if we just coil up and do nothing, go sideways for August, I'm okay. If we start to break, in this case, like that 50 and start to trek down because yen is strengthening, if yen is strengthening during August, that would make me believe that September is going to be tough. A lot of people have been trading Kiwi yen recently, all right, saying that it's just great to trade. I don't think it's been any better than any others. It just did that nice trend, but we've just looked at it on pound yen, Swiss yen, Aussie yen. It's buying strength, selling weakness. That's stage two. Right, that is what you do on stage two. You buy strength and sell weakness, and as you're developing confidence, you start to attack a trend. You don't just take one position and then hold it. You look at, is there ways I can attack this? All right, because when you do get a trend like that, especially correlated across, all the other pairs, well, then you want a piece of that action. But even that, once again, if I look at this here, the way I would look at that is this was the high. We basically that high is a false breakout. Right, we've pushed to the high, fallen back, okay, and just closed it. It's an engulfing in terms of the range, but it's more just a false breakout pin bar. But there we go. That's the high. So what am I looking for? Where's the VB? Bang, there's the VB there. But working my way down. There's the VB. NFP traders through it, right? And whereas we just looked at Aussie yen, which is nicely coiled between them, Kiwi yen's already it's already beneath the 50, it's already beneath the 200. Right, that is yen strength. So you can see where, you hear me say it all the time. All right, when you're at the bottom of the pile, the only way is up, and when you're at the top of the pile, the only way is down. And yen has been at the bottom of the pile for a good part of this year, as has the dollar for the last quarter. So it's not a massive shock to see those things turn around.